welcome to part 4 in the series where I teach you how to build perfect buttons in After Effects. In the last video, we added text to the button, and in this video, we'll go over some common ways to style the button. The first example I'll show you is the inner shadow. Select the box layer and change all of the roundness controls to 0 so we have sharp corners. Then right-click on the box layer and go up to Layer Styles, Inner Shadow. The inner shadow layer style comes from one corner of the box, and we can change the angle. But for the press button look, we actually want the shadow to be equally visible on all sides. So delete the inner shadow, go back up to Layer Styles, and then select Inner Glow. Change blend mode to multiply, color to black, and let's make the size about 15. We'll increase the choke to 10%, and we can increase the range to create a smoother gradient. Now this looks like a press button. I'll add keyframes to choke and size, and hit U on the keyboard to show only those keyframes. Let's go backwards 2 frames and set choke and size to 0. This is our unpressed state. Go forward 2 frames to the press state, and then go forward 3 more frames. Set these to 0 as well. We'll select the center keyframes and hit F9 to ease those. Play it back and we have a tapping button animation. For a button tap animation, the text should be pushed in as well. If we scale down the text like normal, it's going to scale down our box also because the box is parented to the text. There's a quick fix here. Select the text layer and go to Effect, Distort, Transform. Add the transform effect to the text and add a keyframe on that scale. Hit U on the keyboard to see the keyframe in the timeline. Set keyframes for 100 at both the in and out keys. For the midpoint, set it to 99, and ease it with F9. It's a small change, but it's the small details that matter. If we play this back, we have a completed button press animation. On to the next. I'll delete all the inner shadow effects so we can make a nice drop shadow instead. Increase the corner roundness to 100 for all the corners. Duplicate the box layer, rename it to Box 1 Shadow, and bring it to the bottom. Solo it so we can see it, change the fill to black, and unparent it. Hit P on the keyboard to open up its position, and Alt-click on the stopwatch to turn off the position expression. Then open up the box size point control, and we're just going to pick whip the shadow's box size control to the other box size control. Unsolo it, and move the shadow to the right and down until it looks like it's in the right place. Now the shadow layer will always match the size of box 1, but we can move it around independently, and box 1 will still always follow the text layer. To animate, select all the layers and hit P. Add a keyframe onto the text layer's position. Jump forward 5 frames and move the layer to the right and down till it's appearing over the shadow. Jump forward another 5 frames and copy and paste that original position keyframe to reset its position. Ease that middle keyframe with F9, and now we have a nice rounded button with a drop shadow. Moving on. I'll show you how to turn this into a ghost button. A ghost button is a button with a stroke, but with a transparent fill so you can see through it. Delete the shadow layer and our position keyframes. If we turn off the fill, we have this cross section in the middle with a stroke over it. Because we've built up this shape layer with these individual corners, the stroke is appearing over each of those quadrants. We can fix this rather easily. I'll turn down the stroke to 2 pixels so we can see what's going on. Click Contents, Add, Offset Paths. Offset paths should insert below corner 4. By default, the amount is set to 10. Offset paths will make each shape grow outwards by 10 pixels. If we set this to 100, they all grow by 100 pixels. Now if we set it to something low, like 2, all of the paths only grow by 2 pixels and it's barely noticeable. Below offset paths, add merge paths. The cross-section stroke immediately disappears. By default, merge paths is set to add. Because each of the quadrants are growing by 2 pixels, they're all slightly overlapping. And when we hit merge paths to add all the shapes together, the shapes merge wherever they're intersecting. But there's this tiny artifact in the center. Switch offset paths below merge paths and that removes the artifact. Offset paths can even be set to 0 and this merging trick still works. Hit Ctrl G to group all of the corners and path operations. Rename this group to box shape to stay organized. Now we have a ghost button that is transparent on the inside but shows the stroke on the outside. And we still have all of our individual corner rounding controls. To get the fill back, we can simply turn the fill back on. Finally, let's add a gradient fill to this button. Click Fill at the top of the screen to change the fill options. We have linear or radial gradient. Select linear gradient for now and hit OK. This creates a gradient fill on the box layer, and I'll hide the stroke. We're not going to see the gradient fill UI on the canvas unless we insert it into the box shape group. Once we do that, we now see these 2 points with a line through them. These are the start point and the end point. The start point is at 0, 0, which is the center of the box. If we click and drag that point and move it out to the edge, it changes the start point value. We can do the same thing with the end point. I'll set these to the 2 edges and change the colors to something that looks nice. If we change the button text, the button shape resizes and repositions, but the points of the gradient fill won't resize with the box. I want the start point to always be at this bottom left corner, and I want the end point to always be this top right corner. To do that, we can rig the points to be driven by the box size. Select Start Point, and pick whip box size to create an expression. We're going to use our good friend destructuring in this expression. At the front, write const square bracket xy equals box size point dot value. On a new line, write square bracket x divided by -2, comma, y divided by 2. When we commit the expression, the start point is now landing perfectly at the bottom left corner. And when we resize the button, that start point resizes with it. We'll follow the same process for the endpoint. Pick whip box size and write const xy equals box size point dot value. And then on a new line, x divided by +2, comma, y divided by -2. If I click out, the endpoint is now locked to the top right point of our button. And as we change our text, those gradient points stay locked to the corners, giving us a nice smooth gradient, no matter how the box scales or repositions. And there you go, those are 4 common button styles. In the next lesson, we'll rig this up with essential graphics and turn it into a MOGRT. See you later.